I mean, in order for you to understand what a mathematician would do at the banking sector, one needs to understand what's really mathematics. I mean, like how are mathematicians trained and what they're trained to do. I like to think of mathematicians as people who are trained to think rather than who are given ideas and who are given a bulk of knowledge. It's a matter of teaching one's brain how to think. So it becomes much more interesting when you come to when you go to corporate, because in corporate there are so many formulas which are being used, and those formulas, most of them, they have so many assumptions which they are not really given. I mean, if you see, for example, the Black-Scholes model, so one will say, will just see a formula which a normal finance graduate will just see a formula in which he needs to put certain parameters and is going to get this number, and he knows the meaning of this number. So when the mathematician comes now, he doesn't see the formula. Now the mathematician has a brain to go to the assumptions and stretch the formulas and also see other possibilities. I mean,
okay, this is it. This is CareerDrip, and today on CareerDrip, I'm blessed to have a brother, a leader, Murangapanda. Maramina, Murangapanda. And today we have Phidane Thilivhali in the house, and today we're going to be talking about everything mathematics. Phidane is, I think, he's someone who loves mathematics, and then he even went forward into studying mathematics. He has a Bachelor of Science in Mathematics and Computer Science, an honors as well in mathematics, and a Master of Science in Mathematical Physics, all from the University of the Witwatersrand, or aka VETS. The love of mathematics, man, where does it start?
I mean, one can say that from then, I mean, you were told that if you want to make it in life, you have to go for maths and science. So it was not really, you can't really say it was really the love of mathematics. You can just really say it was a fear of poverty, which forced one to run into mathematics, and the mathematics embraced the person.
Yeah,
that's how it started.
Oh, the fear of poverty. Hey, poverty is real, but we need to run away from that thing.
We have no choice. I mean, being poor is not attractive anymore. I mean, like, even when you are poor, you don't like yourself. What do you expect to accept you when?
Yeah, no, it's very rough, man. It's very rough. Now I remember those times, because I remember even when I was in high school, there was this whole, messaging and this whole noise about maths and science, and that these are the careers that are in demand. You need to do maths and everything like that, and that's how even most of us actually want to do mathematics, So, did you always have a picture or an idea of what do people who study maths end up doing at the end of the day? Like when you come to university and when you study and after that you go and work, did you always have a picture of actually what you're going to do?
Yes. I was fortunate enough to be surrounded by people who had the knowledge of what's happening to the industrial or to the real world. So, I mean, I was just told that, if you do maths, or you can go and work at the banks. I mean, maths and the banks. I knew from the beginning that the banks wants mathematicians. So, but I didn't know what do they want them for. But I just knew that the banks like mathematicians.
And now, and I think it's a very privileged point, or is a very fortunate point, because a lot of students actually don't even know. You find someone doing a course, but they even haven't met someone who's actually doing the course, who's already working or who's a professional and everything like that. So they kind of have like a theoretical idea to be like, I think this is what is going to be happening at work, or I think this is what, or maybe they are reading from the brochure, or they're reading from the internet to say this is what this profession does. And I think to have people at that early age whereby they already guide you on that, that's dope, eh?
Yeah. I was fortunate.
Yeah, yeah, no, that's very great. And now talking about the banks, because you are actually in the banking sector or in the bank industry, and I'm sure someone can ask to say, you have done maths and you are in the banking sector. Like, what are you doing there? They can't connect the two. Like, what do mathematicians or what do people with a maths background do in the banking sector or in the financial sector, that is?
I mean, in order for you to understand what a mathematician would do at the banking sector, one needs to understand what's really mathematics. I mean, like, how are mathematicians trained and what they're trained to do. I'd like to think of mathematicians as people who are trained to think, rather than who are given ideas and who are given a bulk of knowledge. It's a matter of teaching one's brain how to think. So, in most of going through that rigorous training of being taught how to think in mathematics, proving theorems, spending most time in the abstract world where only you understand the problem that you are solving. So it becomes much more interesting when you go to corporate, because in corporate there are so many formulas which are being used, and those formulas, most of them, they have so many assumptions which they are not really given. I mean, if you see, for example, the Black-Scholes model, so one will say, we'll just see a formula which a normal finance graduate will just see a formula in which he needs to put certain parameters and is going to get this number, and he knows the meaning of this number. So when the mathematician comes now, he doesn't see the formula. Now the mathematician has a brain to go to the assumptions and stretch the formulas and also see other possibilities. I mean, it was realized in the late 1980s that it's better now for the banks to go and take people who have a quantitative background and teach them financial knowledge. Then they can do well than someone who do pure finance in the industry, because there you tend to give more insights, and that's what we do.
You know, and that's very great. And I remember one student also once asked me this in class, in fact, and he was like, I see all the maths and all that we're being taught here, but where are we going to use this? You know, am I going to get into some company and they're like, yeah, solve for X, you know, and you are there, you know, factorizing or applying the quadratic equation and stuff like that. And I was like, no, we teach you how to think. We give you analytical skills, you know, we give you problem solving skills, which are the skills that I think right now, especially because we're in the era of innovation, you know, and you're talking about even fourth industrial revolution, coding and everything like that. You'll never understand the code until you understand the maths behind it, of course, depending on what language are you using and everything. In fact, I was even arguing with someone to say, I think that mathematicians can actually make good entrepreneurs because they have already been instilled with a problem-solving mind, because math is always about problem solving, you know, because the question that I always get asked all the time when I tell people I'm doing math is always like, where are you gonna work, and stuff like that. So let's look at, besides academia and teaching, where does, you know, opportunities lie for someone who has done mathematics or someone who has done mathematical sciences?
I mean, since I'm more into the banking sector, I'll focus more on what I know. I mean, if you check the high performing hedge fund in the world. It's headed by the guy called Jim Simmons, and he's a mathematician. I mean, as a mathematician, when you go to the the financial theory will tell you that there's no arbitrage in the market, that the markets are efficient. So there's no way that you can make risk-free profit by anything, because like they assume that the knowledge is already there, everyone has equal knowledge in the world. Then they come this new school of thought of mathematicians who are coming to say that we can indeed find patterns in financial markets that we can exploit and make profit out of them. So, which means that now you have more trading moving towards algorithmic trading. I mean, like you can't really make an algorithm. An algorithm, you have to think of a mathematical pattern or a form of or a formula that needs to follow in order for you to program that algorithm. So that's when mathematics is going. And now the one who also mentioned with the rise of new passive investment strategies. I mean, the passive investment strategies is more where the funds are just following a certain index. I mean, there are some indexes which use mathematical formulas, which we just go to the data and apply those mathematical formulas to the data and analyze it and see and buy stocks according to such formulas. So it has been proven, I mean, using the historical data that those ETFs, in fact, they perform well. I mean, even the hedge fund headed by Jim Simmons, I mean, if you check it and if you read more about it, you will just realize that he just have his own mathematical formula that he's using, equations that he's using to solve the market. So it becomes much more interesting in that way. Also in risk management, I mean, as a mathematician in risk management, you are able to see other variables, many variables that can really affect the returns on the portfolio that you are managing. I mean, that's why most mathematicians they go to risk management, and some mathematicians, I mean, they go to pricing. I mean, for actual trading to the in markets. I mean, because like if you are a mathematician, you're able to exploit different situations to your advantage, because you are in a world where I mean, if you check topology, for instance, I mean, you tend to focus more into detail, and you tend to know. People will argue that you know too much of small things, but one will also argue that if there's too much of small things, just means that it was ignorance to the beginning. Those things which people thought it was small, it's not small anymore.
Yeah.
Yes.
And you know, when you talk about hedge funds and you talk about exchange traded funds, and just the stock market in its essence, and I don't know, like for me, I like sometimes to appreciate the maths, especially in things like that, because the mathematics there is, you know, is very beautiful to say the least. And I remember looking at this other equations. I forgot what's the name of the equations, but they are also like, you know, equations that are sort of used to actually explain the stock exchange market and how it works, and even derivatives and all of those type of things. And I was like, you know, I think if you come from a math background like yourself or like myself, then you can beat the market, wouldn't you?
Yeah, you can beat the market, but until someone see what you are doing, I mean, like you must be in a point where, I mean, like the market is changing, man. The issue with markets, one needs to understand that you are trying to model human behavior, and people change every day. I mean, you might come up with a very nice formula that works well, that can give you returns in a period of time, but like people change. I mean, we're not dealing with a topological or measure theory where a set will always be a set, and so that's what there's an element of you can read the market, and also there's an element of caution. I mean, like the likes of Emmanuel Deman, they also wrote the Financial Modelers Manifesto. I mean, where they have the same structure as the Communist Manifesto, but they are also mentioning cautioning mathematicians against assumptions that their formulas they can really predict where the market is going.
Yeah, and isn't that the beauty of it? You know, the evolving part of it, because that it means that one always needs to, you know, reshape. You know, if one has those kind of formulas and everything like that, or even imputing new variables now, because maybe there is, you know, another variable that, you know, before it never used to be, you know, a big determinator, but now it is, and everything like that. Take me through your day-to-day basis, as in what do you do, like in a normal day, in the line of work that you do. What do you look into? You know, just give us a glimpse into your mathematics life there, in the banks.
I mean, my job, I mean, like, I won't really tell you that I have a specific routine that I follow. Like, every day is different. I mean, because we have a time where we are developing new things, so that will be used in the everyday life, like for trading. We do have to develop new things, but sometimes we will be in a process where we are also maintaining what has been built before and it's broken, and we are also updating. I mean, sometimes it can be also just pure data extraction. It's flexible. You don't really know what to expect.
Yeah.
That's what I do.
Yeah, and
so
I think
yeah.
Continue. And I think, I don't know, but I'll speak on my side. You know, I think maths gives you this kind of, I think, well, that's my own theory, is that if you take someone who's done mathematics and put them in a routine kind of a job, they will get bored easily, because I don't know, somehow mathematics gives us this, I don't want to say an innovative mind, whereby you always want to solve new problems, and it's exciting when there is a new problem coming in, or is a new kind of a territory is coming in, and everything like that. Do you find that for you, or can you say that for you as well?
Yes. You I mean, like, you know, I mean, the beauty of it, I mean, you always be stimulated every day. But the best side is, if the solutions are not working, then you are going to wake up midnight trying to, when everyone is sleeping, and in your mind you are just thinking of a way that you can break through. You can find a breakthrough. I mean, that's mathematics for you. I mean, once you have once you encounter a problem, it has the ability of staying in your brain in such a way that you tend to forget about many things which are happening all over, and you tend to focus on what you are faced with. That's an advantage of the disadvantage of mathematics.
And you know, someone was saying that we are insane, and I was telling someone the very same thing the other day, that I can be alone, but you know, to find that, or maybe I'm quite there at the corner, but I'm not there. Like, I'm in my mind, and you know, I'm solving this problem and everything like that. And then if you get it in your mind, it's always one of those beautiful things. People will just see you smiling there at the corner.
Yeah, because you found your own eureka moment. I mean, the beauty of seeing something that you have developed work I mean, like that joy on its own, yeah.
And I guess
It's
that,
fulfilling.
and I guess that is even more. I mean, like in the academic space, it's just us and the numbers and the abstract things. But I can suppose that in the real life work that you do, seeing the mathematics like really infiltrating into real life stuff, I guess that is even much more refreshing and even more fulfilling than ever.
Yeah, it becomes much more interesting. I mean, you tend to realize that there's more to what you are being taught in class. I mean, one will also argue that where can I use measure theory, for instance? I mean, but if you check if you are given the normal Black-Scholes model, the finance graduates are going to tell you that the Black-Scholes model has constant volatility. But when you go to the market, you realize the market volatility is not constant. It is stochastic. So now, as a mathematician, you can be able to think now. So if the thing is not stable, how do I tend to stabilize it or measure my risk?
Yeah.
I mean, also now the idea of a measure now also when you go to the real life, it changes. I mean, for instance, at the beginning we were saying that the finance graduates will argue that the markets are efficient. So they argue that the market is efficient given the information that you already have. But now, when the mathematician comes in, he tends to take the information that we have. It's represented as a measure. Now you tend to consider that this is the behavior or this is the behavior of my function given this measure, and that measure now becomes the available data or the available information in your hand, which now you can be able to think further.
Yeah. And I was reading a book by, I forgot the name of the book, but is like the Power of Habits. I think that's the title. It talks about how habits are formed, and I remember even in this, so they even give you some sort of data that even comes from certain companies, obviously this book was written by some author in the States. I think it's Charles Duhigg. And then one of the retailers that side, I think it was Walmart, they actually employed this statistician, who came into the company, and they were studying the habits of buyers in the company. I mean, not in the company, but when they come inside the retailer, and how that statistician then took all this kind of data, which was before people just viewed it as data, and people would just people will just take data and be like, oh, these are the numbers and everything like that. But this guy did something amazing where he took these numbers and he started applying some mathematical algorithms in it, and he came out with this impressive results to be like, okay, this is, he even modeled like customers as in when they walk in the shop, they started putting sensors and everything like that to be like, in fact, if someone gets into the shop and the first thing they move into their right, they are most likely to buy more than 5 goods. And I was like, maths can really, really give you much more information than the limited information that even the people who use the data for might not even be willing to tap into.
Yes. So I mean, like, to be honest, math is more like the foundation of everything. So we're at the center of everything. That's what I can say.
And there's a book called or titled "God is a Mathematician." I've been wanting to read that book, but the title, I don't know. For me, it says it all.
I mean, I'll also look at it. I didn't know. I'll also look at it.
So, someone who's doing mathematics or mathematical sciences anywhere in university, or perhaps someone who's a student in high school who is very interested in mathematics and stuff. Let's start with the ones that are in university right now, who are about to graduate or anything like that, who may be in their second year, third year, or even doing first year doing mathematical sciences. What can you say to them?
I mean, I will tell them that to study very hard and be serious about their mathematics, because like if they get right their mathematics, there's nothing. There's no one who can stop them. With mathematics, the monetary wise, it's very rewarding, because when you get there, you tend to be appreciated as a mathematician, because there are not many mathematicians. Not many people can think the way you think.
You know, when you say monetary wise, you know, it's kind of hidden. You know how politicians always, you know, come and give this diplomatic, you know, answers. You know, actually, what you wanted to say is that they're gonna be paid well, or the field of mathematics in industry pays very well.
Yes.
That's great
they
to hear.
Really pay. And I mean, like, their starting salary. I mean, one will. If they go and to the net and Google the starting salary, they will realize that I don't really want to bash other careers, but I will say that we don't have articles in mathematics. So if you get a job, you're sorted. You just have to pass very well, because in most of these jobs, they tend to have an average of saying that we want a certain average in order for you to make it into our graduate programs and so on. But if you get inside those graduate programs, you really need counseling for a first month.
You need counseling for the first month.
I mean, like, starting from the environment when we were eating biryani at the matrix to being rewarded your tuition fee as your income. I mean, it's interesting sometimes.
No, yeah.
So you tend to be confused. You don't really know. Yeah. So
I like that.
Starting wise, if you're a mathematician, mathematicians really start well, and also they can also go far.
Yeah.
Because like there are so many things you can do with mathematics. You can write even your board exams, different board exams, and branch into many fields. It's not really, you're not really limited as a mathematician.
True.
So I would just say, having a quantitative background doesn't really limit you.
Yeah.
Because like now, I tend to interact with many other professionals who I never thought I'll work with in the everyday life.
Yeah, but I like what you said there, to say that, you know, if you maybe do maths and you go to the industry, your first salary, you're gonna need counseling, you know. You know,
maybe it was just poverty to some of us. You know, when you're poor, you tend to appreciate everything.
Yeah, no, that's great. And those in high school, maybe those in matric and everything like that, what advice do you have for them?
The high school ones, I can't really say I'll have a specific advice. The advice I can tell them is that to take everything serious and not follow the trends. I mean, not listen to the negative voices. I mean, the mistake that some of us made when we came to university was We came with a defeated mind of being told that Vets chows or university chows or mathematics chows, if you get 50, then you must be happy, you must appreciate it. So, but if you really think deeper into these things, you will realize that nothing really chows if you are really determined and you really believe in yourself. You must not really allow someone to dim your light or to discourage you. You must have a mind of this idea of thinking that nothing, if it can be done by someone, you also have the capability of doing it, because many of these things are not really difficult. But if you are told that the subject matter is difficult, even though it's not, you don't find it difficult, you tend to look for difficulty because you have this belief that no, man, it must be difficult. And when you are faced with a challenge, sometimes it's easy to give up because you have already been told that it's difficult. It's just affirming what you have already been told. So if we can have what others can call the paradigm shift, now of thinking that we are also capable of showing the course, then we can do it.
Indeed. Yeah, no, I think that is well said. That's a mouthful. And yeah, no, Phidane Thilivhali, thank you very much for gracing us with your time. I'd like to believe that whomever that is going to be watching this, they will take a lot, especially those that are doing mathematical sciences, because there seems to be a lack of representation. They don't get to see a lot of people who actually have done maths who are in the industry. So this will go a long way. Thank you so much.
I mean, like, there's so many people, just to correct, there's so many people who have done maths and they're in the industry. So if you go to Professor Muminiet in School of Applied Mathematics, he will tell you that the economy of Joburg is changing. Before, it was much more engineers who were leading the field. I mean, but now it's much more services based. And when you are services based, you tend to, instead of exporting raw materials, you are exporting the services. So now that's when mathematicians come to play, because many of these financial institutions, their headquarters, they are here in Joburg. So they tend to service the rest of South Africa. It's just that the mathematicians, most of them, they don't talk much. That's the problem.
Yeah, true. Yeah, no, that's why I'm saying there is a lack of representation in the form of vocalizing what is, what mathematicians do in that part of the world. But yeah, this is enlightening. Thank you so much for your time.
Okay, you're welcome.
Thank you.